This is our New Year's Eve podcast.
Yeah, so boom.
We're gonna make this all about goals.
Yeah.
Setting goals,
Reflecting.
keeping your goals, how to set the goals, how to reverse engineer your goals, what kind of goals to set. Yeah. We don't really have any kind of like major script right now. We're just gonna riff on, hey, what if
not that we ever have a major script.
We never have a major script. But
yeah, everybody goes, do you and Josh prepare for the podcast? Nope, not really. We kind of wing it because we want it to be authentic.
Of a podcast.
We want it to come from the heart.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Around this time of year, it is amazing how everybody sets goals and everybody has this, like, is it nostalgic? Like, kind of like you start thinking about your life. And
yeah,
just like
reflective.
You start reflecting and what you've accomplished and what you've done and what type of person you are.
When does that tend to hit you? Does it tend to hit you around now, or is it like...
That's a great question.
Because like I'm a New Year's Eve guy. It's like, oh crap, on New Year's Eve.
No, it tends to hit me much sooner. I think, well, easily for the company because when we start our strategic planning, as we call it, you know, you get into that mode. But I'm probably there around Thanksgiving. It's like the gratitude. You know, we interview Kim Angeli, our gratitude girl. She's all about gratitude, and you naturally think gratitude around Thanksgiving.
Start thinking about what you're grateful
it's
for.
Weird how it's like we have conditioned ourselves culturally that the goals. Like it's, you know, the end of the year is when you set all your goals. But statistically, I don't know the statistics, fact check this, Andrea, but the statistics are alarming. Like barely, I think it's less than 10% keep their goal.
Keep their goal.
Keep their goal. And most people have given up on their goal by like March. Ariel's going to fact check it, producer Ariel.
Yeah.
But it's like most people give up on their goal by March. Why is that? Here, I think, is the thing that has been really impacting me lately, and I'm a huge fan of Ed Mylett, so I got to give credit where credit's due. Man, Ed Mylett is another one. I would just die if we could interview him. So Ed Mylett, I have to tag you in this podcast, but man, I would love to interview this guy because he's freaking amazing.
I need
8%. Wow.
8% do the entire year.
25% after 30 days, 8% keep their goal for the entire year.
It is amazing. And you know what's so funny, and speaking of Ed Mylett, he talks about confidence, right? And confidence is one of the key things. If you're in sales, confidence is one of the absolute key things to help you close a deal. There's something about your persona, it affects your tone, your inflection, everything that gets people to want to buy from you. People want to buy from people they look up to. They don't want to buy from people they look down to or at. They want to buy from someone they look up to. Your confidence, though, he says, he believes your confidence is created by promises that you've kept to yourself. So he talks about confidence being preparation, which I have always said confidence really comes from preparation, but he says it's more than that. It's more than just preparation. It's deeper than that, where it's actually you set a promise to yourself, a goal, and you kept it.
Yeah.
And in your power of keeping the promises to yourself, you've built self-confidence that I can do it. And here we are, 8% of people keep the promise that they made at the end of 2020. And why is that? I think it is because, and this is another big thing that Ed Mylett has taught me over the years, so is your standards, and this is what I ranted about today at our sales meeting, is your standards are going to be the thing that makes or breaks you. And what's so interesting is, you know, you'll never outgrow the vision and the standards that you have for yourself.
Right.
You'll never outgrow that. So Josh will never be greater than the standards that he himself has created for himself. Think about that for a second. Like if you think, I'm going to close, it's be amazing to close 30 deals.
It's winning the lottery. In order to exceed your own it's winning the lottery.
It's crazy.
Some outside influence has to do it for you.
So it's mind-boggling. When you think about it that way, you go, holy crap, I'm literally, and Tony Robbins talks about it like you've written a story on your life. Like you've written the story of who you are. Your 2020 has already been written.
Right.
Your 2020, as you think about it, has already been written because you're telling yourself a narrative and you're going to play out the narrative. Why? Because the thoughts you think constantly, day in and day out, will influence the actions you take.
Right.
And that's why it's all about, why do we set goals? You set goals because you're trying to create the narrative of the life you want, and you're trying to direct the narrative of the life you want and influence what you want out of your life. And the problem that so many people have, heck, 8% of people seem to make it, is we have such low standards. Tom Brady, I read this article, and I shared this with our sales team. Read an article from Rob Gronkowski, or it was about what Rob Gronkowski was saying about the Patriots. Now, he was the tight end for the Patriots, amazing guy with Tom Brady for years, won multiple Super Bowls. And he said one of the things he doesn't miss, and it was kind of like a joke in a way, but one of the things he doesn't miss is the negativity in the Patriots locker room.
Right.
And what he was referring to is Tom Brady, they were talking about how it was 10-1 at the time. He's 10 wins,
10 wins,
1 loss.
Yep.
And he's unhappy.
Everyone else would be thrilled.
And Tom
Top of the
Brady is
league.
unhappy at
Unhappy.
10 wins and 1 loss. Why? Because he's looking at the 10 wins. He has such high standards for himself. He set such high goals for himself that the 10 wins, they didn't win them the correct way.
Could've
They
won 'em
didn't win
better.
them. They could have been better.
Yep.
And the 1 loss,
Too many mistakes.
obviously, they
Yeah.
could have been better. And
Right.
then I read another article that I share with the team about LeBron James. Now, if you guys don't like sports athletes or you don't like sports, I mean, you could find this in any probably realm. But, I'm a fan of sports. So LeBron James, they basically overhear him cussing out the other players on the team.
Mm-hmm.
And he was cussing them out for not hustling hard enough. And I think they were up by like 30-something points. And he was mad because
We're winning, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, they weren't hustling down the court enough to make the layup. And he's like, none of you want an effing layup, blah, 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 blah. And the point being is like, Tom Brady, LeBron James, put in who you want at the top of their class. Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, whoever you want, Grant Cardone, Ed Milet. They're relentless when it comes to the standards, i.e. the goals that they've set in their life.
Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time in our own company, and if you're listening to this, you've probably experienced this, where you've set goals, you've hit those goals, and you're okay with that. Like that's satisfied you. And what we're always trying to get across to the team, and you say this in morning meetings all the time, and our CEO, Steve, who's been on the podcast, says this all the time.
Yeah.
We constantly then, as soon as we hit a goal, increase the goal. As soon as we hit a goal, increase the goal.
Yeah, you have to.
We didn't hit a goal, increase the goal. It's continuously pushing yourself. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere near it. I watched a video recently on that Grant Cardone put out. He's sitting there on a beach, and he's got his daughters there on the beach. It was 2 things that led him to success. Were number 1, waking up early. And then number 2,
You hear that a lot from successful
every
people.
morning he would write down 2 things. One would be an unachievable goal, something that he could never imagine actually being able to hit.
Yeah.
And then a quote. So whether it's a quote from someone else or a quote that he himself needed to hear that day. And that's the idea. It's like, stop worrying about whether you can actually achieve it or not and start aiming for higher than you think you can achieve. Now, after that, I think comes in the next part of this, which is, so you have a goal, well, how are you going to hit it?
Yeah,
Because a goal without a plan is just a wish, right? So you have to start implementing a plan. And that's where we get into, and what we've preached here, and we've really found a couple years ago, helped us tremendously in our business, is we just began reverse engineering every goal. So we had a revenue goal as a business. We worked backwards and said, well, how much do we have to increase our revenue each year? And then from there, it's, well, what's bringing in the revenue?
Yeah. Correct.
Is it current existing clients? Is it new sales? And so backing it all the way back, and we actually have a leads calculator that we'll include in the
so
show
people can
notes
download this.
of this podcast. But basically what it does is it takes everywhere, and the reason why we ask about leads all the time on this podcast, every guest you're asking about,
It's where do your leads come
where are you getting
from?
your leads from?
How do you generate
How do they
them?
convert? What percentage do they convert at? And that's because ultimately it all can be tracked backwards to a single action. And each step along the way has a conversion rate. And if you know you need 50 sales, you can figure out how many leads you need to generate. And then your activities each day for that year, you can then be one of the 8% that every day you're doing the activities.
It'd be interesting to do a study
lead
of
you
like
to your
how
goal.
many business or how many salespeople hit quota. I'm sure, maybe you should look that up, Ariel. I'm sure there's probably a stat out there that says how many salespeople actually hit goal or hit quota. And it's the same, in sales it's so powerful to reverse engineer because it dictates what you should do every day.
Right.
That's the power of reverse engineering. So if you're a real estate agent listening to this,
Directs your
you
actions.
cannot go into 2020 without first setting, well, how many transactions, how many sides do you want to do this year? Like, is it going to be 30 transactions that you want to do? And then you break down from there, how are you going to get those transactions? And what's the best way to tell what you're going to do in the future is to look at what you've done in the past. Now, if you're brand new, you got to start from maybe some industry standards, and you can find those online, or you can go to your brokers, probably even a better avenue for you to go because they can give you some averages of what they've seen. But is reverse engineering down and going, okay, where did I get my deals from in the past? Like when we look at Steve and my brother's business, over 40-something% of his deals come from his SOI, his sphere of influence.
Right.
So he knows, hey, if I'm going to do 120 deals this year, man, 40% of them are going to come from my sphere of influence, which I need to concentrate then
And
on
how does he
do
know
I...
that? He began his business, and this is credit to you, coaching him every day and calling him.
You're
and
dang
holding him
right, Steven.
accountable.
So if you're listening to this, you owe me a lot of credit.
But he began his business year one tracking, okay, I got a lead. Where did that come from? I got a transaction. Where did that come from? So he spent his first 2.5 years. He's got all of his conversion rates. Now, what we're saying and what you're saying now is, hey, if you don't have those yet, let's say you're 3-4 years in, or maybe you're longer in and you're struggling. You want to rejuvenate your business. Go look up the stats. Gary Keller wrote a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Yeah, that's a great
It's got every single conversion point possible in there. The only ones it's missing are things like, what should your Facebook leads convert at? But he's got what the industry average for a listing appointment to listing is. And then it's like 85% of listings then sell. So just plug those stats into a spreadsheet. And like I said, we have one for you where we have those plugged in if you're in real estate. And if you're in another industry like financial service or insurance.
You can find them. I'm sure
or
you
we
can
have
find them
hairdressers that listen.
on Google. We have a perfume sales guy that listens to this, I believe, because he's
But
reached
how
out to me
often,
a couple of times.
start thinking about it if you own a saloon, or is it a saloon or a salon?
Salon. If you own a saloon,
I'm bald, people. I have no hair.
Andrea and Ariel are cracking up. A saloon. When you own a saloon, how many people come in to drink?
No,
like it's
come
like
on,
a wild.
stop.
It's the Wild West.
If you own a salon, right? You know probably how often, or go back into your books and start figuring out how many times do people come into your salon to get a coloring, a haircut, whatever. I don't. How many times do you get your haircut? Is it every 3 months for people
And
that have
can we
hair?
just say, why are women's haircuts so expensive?
There's a lot.
I mean, I'm sorry, that's tangential, but man, it's so expensive. It's like Megan, I was like, wow. It's like I'll get like a $15 haircut, and it's just like 120, 130. I know it's more hair and it's obvious, but come on.
Anyways, it's not worth that much.
Yeah, to not get us off topic too much.
No, but
you're
you
right.
see what I'm saying.
It's tracking. Okay, where are you getting your clients coming from?
Yes.
And then what that will obviously direct you to do is it directs you on your action in marketing, your action in outreach.
But what I'm saying is go even deeper, and if go back and look at your book of client appointments. Count how many people stopped coming to you. That's your
that's a
attrition
great
rate.
to even
Count
see it
how
from
many
the negative
times they're
side.
coming. Count when they come into your business, and then how many appointments you get out of them. So if they're coming in June, you know you're only going to get 2 appointments out, or maybe get 3. Maybe they go more in the winter or something. I don't know. That's information that you have. Then you know how many clients do I need to bring in each quarter of 2020,
right?
And then it's just a matter of now you're going back to, okay, where am I getting them from? Where are those leads coming from? Is that coming from my social media?
Correct.
Is it coming from coupons, the coupon clipper? Is it coming from display ads?
Do you do, if you're in real estate, how many cold calls? It really is so interesting because business, like especially in real estate, but I guarantee you it's in insurance, finance, it's all these, it's actually really, really simplistic.
Real estate's almost the easiest. I hate to say that because it's a transaction.
It's so simple in concept, like of what you need to do. But for some reason, it's really, really hard for people to stay consistent in what they do. Consistent in their tracking, consistent. Like I was trying to come up with that acronym where we were trying, I was like, how do I put into those words, like a real short acronym or words to get people to understand it's really just as simple as taking action, tracking your results, and then pivoting when you see what the results are telling you. But it's that for some reason we don't track what we have done, and we don't realize that, hey, look, you can very easily go, my transaction goal's 30. Where those come from my historic records is it comes from my sphere, it comes from my open houses, it comes from my FSBOs.
Tracking doesn't feel productive. Tracking feels like, well, I could either spend time tracking or I could get back on the phone.
Yes, correct, but you don't know how many phone calls. Like imagine it's like you should know right now how many phone calls does it take you to get an appointment?
Right.
Like how many phone calls on average? Like my guys on the phone will call 150 calls, let's say on average a day. They might talk to about 10 to 11 people. They might talk to about 10 to 11, like actual real conversations. Out of that, they need to close 2 if they're really good, but the average person is going to close 1.3, 1.4. And so it's just interesting how it's like Joe Frazier, who's one of our top reps, knew. Now he's gotten better over time, so I'll call him out a little bit. So he's gotten a little lazier over time, I say, but he's gotten better over time, and he knew he had to hit 3.5 hours of phone time a day. He had to be somewhere in that range every single day for him to hit what he wanted to in his quota every 2 weeks for his paycheck. So he had his way of going, like, I know I need to be around 3.5 hours of phone time. If I consistently hit 3.5 hours of phone time, I'm gonna actually hit this quota. And that's how he used to dictate his day. I say you go even deeper than that, which is you should know literally down, and we don't even do a great job about this on our sales floor, but you should go down to where you know today, in order for me to make $100K or 500,000 in GCI, I need to sell 30 homes at this much, and my 30 homes are going to come from open houses, they're going to come from FSBOs expires, they're going to come from, let's say my sphere of influence. With my sphere of influence, 1 out of 50 people are going to convert this year, and in order to do that, I need to touch them 6 times a year. Like, you break it down, and then you now know exactly what you should do when you wake up. Now, I actually heard, which I thought was really good, from, I think it was Dave Robards, who's one of Grant Cardone's sales managers, so shout out to him. He was talking about one of the things that helped him, and I think changed his life with what Grant Cardone taught him with his goals, was you should write down your goals every single day. You should write them down. So everybody writes them down January 1st, and he says, who has the better chance of winning? The person who writes down their goals January 1st one time, or the person who's writing down their goals 365 days a year.
Creates focus.
And he says what he does for his team, and I haven't implemented on my team, I probably should. He makes his team write them down 2 times a day.
Right.
So you're literally writing down your goal like 700 plus times a year.
Come back
Who's
from
going to
lunch,
win?
sluggish. Write
Who's
down
going to
your
win?
goal.
Who's going to
What do I
win?
need to do now?
And then it's the quote I always give from that real estate agent of, when you pick up that 50-pound phone or knock on that door that you don't want to, or do the things you don't want to do, it's when your goal is bigger than your fear. It's when your why is bigger than your fear. And if you're not constantly reminding yourself of that goal, if you're not constantly reminding yourself of that why, there's no way you will win and actually pick up that phone. And what's so interesting about success, think of how long you've been here.
17 years.
17 years.
Yep.
And you think about our successes here, and it's like, it never was, except this weekend when we did the online signups, and it was freaking unreal. I mean, or I guess this is recorded in the past, so when you guys hear this, it won't be this weekend. But
but it's okay. This is
the point being
Thanksgiving
is,
weekend,
that was
right?
our huge, huge win. But it's the sum of the small things. It's the day in and day out. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like when I get off my goals of doing the things that I consistently wanted to do, what's so disappointing about it is that you just go, man, there's just no easy way to winning. And it's like, now it's like, because I took off going to the gym that time, I can't make it up by going harder. Well, you can't make a baby with 9 women in the room, right? It takes 9 months. What's that saying?
Yeah, you can't make a baby in a month with.
Yeah, exactly. I need Josh to clarify. But the point being is, like, that's what success is like. You can't fake it. Like, you can't just crap, missed out. Now let's put 9 women in a room and have a baby in a month.
The goals that
doesn't work that way. Andrea's losing her mind.
What's so funny, and I'm not sure if this is where you're going, but what it makes me
probably not. No one knows where I'm going with that.
What it makes me think about is, obviously we've had our goals as a marketing team over the course of the year. It's all tracked back to ultimately the sales. We reverse engineer everything based on the sale, based on a new client. Now that's then all calculated in terms of like how long an existing client will stay with us, but it still comes back to a new client. When we set a huge goal of 200 online signups in a 4-day period, that team got so freaking creative in terms of the videos that we produced, the copy that we wrote, the follow-up sequences that were generated. And now it's all because it was such a tight focus goal that now we can take everything that we did and learn from that. And yeah, we almost doubled our goal with 369 online signups, and our sales team broke their record by more than.
Well, I'm going to go even like one of the negatives of setting goals.
Yeah.
And negatives of tracking is that it causes inaction, which is very interesting. It's like I think of Ricky Carruth. He comes to my mind because he has relationships over transactions. And I guarantee you, if I asked him, hey, do you reverse engineer, you track your stuff? I think I've seen him say this on Instagram. He would probably say no. And he probably would say, no, I don't really track. Not that he's not tracking what's happening in his business, but he would go, no, I'm just out here to help people. I'm not counting you as like a track. So the negative that can be of setting goals, like Steve Acree, does Steve Acree really set goals? Like Steve Acree, obviously. Like, I mean, come on, they're smiling at me right now. The guy doesn't really set goals.
No.
I mean, come on, right? This guy's a multi-millionaire. He doesn't really set goals.
Not in terms of, I don't think there's
But it doesn't mean he doesn't function off of goals. So like everybody's listening going, wait a second. If Ricky Carruth is not really setting goals and Steve, it's not that they're not setting big goals in their life, but they are not letting goals. A lot of times people will set goals the wrong way. They
agree with you
play
there.
business.
Yes.
And in one of the deaths of people
That's the
and
best
deaths
way
of
to say it.
organizations, they
Yes.
play business. And this is why you read these books, Death by Meeting.
Yes.
Because you're freaking having a meeting to make yourself feel good
You got
about
something done.
Yeah, you got something done. We sat in a meeting. We talked about it, Instagram. We
action
talked
items.
about social media. We feel good today. And I walk away and I go, yeah, crap.
But I would say
It's like,
relationships over transactions is more of a value, an internal value than necessarily a goal. Like
It
Ricky
is.
Cruz isn't saying I don't need to make any transactions. He's just saying from the standpoint of, hey, I value the relationship that I've created with that but I can't eat without the transactions.
to me, goals, or if you don't set goals, it usually comes because you don't have the habits to enable you to set in those goals and track those goals. Myself, like when I think of Steve, right, because Steve's an incredible entrepreneur, incredible sales guy. It's not that he has anything negative against goals.
But he set goals. I remember sitting down. This is going back to 2004, 2005. Sitting down around a table.
Was the goal 500 million? No.
Yeah, dude. In Chester Springs, Pennsylvania, there's like 5 of us there, and he's sitting us down, and we're all like, what are we doing here? Yeah. And he goes, I think we just finished like our 3rd printing of our first print run because we screwed up the printers that we had screwed up the first 2. So we found a 3rd printer by the 3rd printing, and they did a great job. They're still our printer today. And he goes, I want to be the next. I think it was Meredith Publishing, right? He goes, I see you guys looking at me. We just printed 20,000 magazines. We have 120 clients, I think, or no, 212 clients for our first printing. He goes, I see you guys. We're going to be sending 2 million magazines a month. And we're like, we are?
Well, you see the power. That's actually a great point.
How many years have we survived as a business versus every other business that starts?
What did that enable you to do? It enabled
to
you
rise
to
up to something.
Yeah, and rally together and charge towards like that's the power of setting a goal. Is it drives you to something, and it's just I guess what I'm saying to people is that
But you're
I
right.
just
We
don't
can't sit there and
get
reverse
bogged
engineer it.
down. Right, you're not reverse. Like so, I don't want your goals to cause inaction.
Right.
But man, if we could all just be so disciplined, like if you could wake up at 4 a.m. every morning, go to the gym, sit down, write your goals, track yourself from, like if you, like your 8-hour day today, think back about what you really did.
So that's all mindset. I mean, that's really, what
It's
you're
discipline.
talking about is mindset.
It's discipline.
Yeah.
It comes down to your standards and your discipline. How disciplined are you? I look back at my, what time is it we're recording this? It's about 30:30. Like I was here about 7:30 this morning is when I was pulling in, sometime around then.
Yep.
What did I really do from 7:30 to now? So if I was like so disciplined in every area of my life, which is almost impossible, think of how productive I can be. And it's like that challenge. It's like that's why you want
I just
goals.
watched a video of Gary Vee, and he said one of the things that he's done is he's just really respected his time. Like he's like one of the things he said was meetings. He goes there is such a thing as a 7-minute meeting. He goes, so many meetings that we have are 30 minutes long because that's nice and even and equal, and it's expected for a meeting to last 30 minutes. He goes, no, schedule a 7-minute meeting.
That's beautiful,
What does
dude.
that
That's
give
a
you?
golden nugget.
That gives you 3 extra minutes to check your email, check your DMs, do something else that's going to help build relationships.
Yeah, it's going to be pragmatic and actually move the needle forward.
Right, and
that's what it really boils down to.
That's why you hear CEOs that schedule everything in
5-minute, 15-minute blocks. Yep.
Is scheduled.
Mark Cuban won't take meetings unless he's picking up a check. Elon Musk doesn't want meetings. Jeff Bezos requires you to put out a memo of exactly what the meeting's going to be about before you can have a meeting. Like, we could have a whole
See a theme
podcast
here?
on meetings. No, it's just like the number one death in business is we play business.
Yeah, that's a great way to put
We
it.
play business. It's because it
That,
kind of
Luke,
makes you
is
feel
a
good.
golden nugget.
Yeah. Don't play business.
Don't play business.
Don't play. We do it all the time. I do it all the time. You
Play to
can't help
win.
yourself. You just settle and you go. And David Goggins, man, read his book. It's an incredible book, but he talks about like literally this idea that when you get to the point of giving up mentally and you can't do anymore, you're only 40% done. And that's how weak the human mind is.
I used to
Now,
do this
whether
thing
or not
when I
that's
would-
true or not, like Ariel, Google that. Like I love how we think Google's the standard of truth now. Fact check that. But the point being is like you have 60% more in you. 60% more in you than what you're putting forward today. And it's the standards. And Ed Milet's analogy or example of the temperature on the wall is so incredible. I encourage you guys, go watch his just Google Ed Mylett, you'll see one of his videos with it. But he talks about you set the standards of your life. You set the temperature of your life. And it doesn't matter what books I give you, what inspiration, what podcast you listen to. Doesn't matter. He goes, the temperature might rise a little bit, but guess what? It's going to go back down. It's going to regulate to whatever that temperature that you set on your life. That's where you're going to get back to. And then what's so crazy is that you usually set the temperature on your life by the 6 closest people you are, too. So it's like, I told my sales callers this, and think about this for your own life. I told my sales callers that were new, I said, you two, I said, guess what? Whether you know it or not, you're setting your standards of how well you're doing based upon her right beside you. Because she got a deal, and now you're thinking to yourself, if I just get 2 deals, at least I'm doing better than her. And so you're setting your standard subconsciously, not even realizing it by that, instead of going, 2 deals, is a joke, I'm going to get 10 deals, and start acting in a way that gets you 10 deals.
Yeah. You're talking about David Goggins, 40%, you're only 40% there or whatever. Yeah. Whenever I would like spin or run or whatever and try and go for distance or time, I would always go like anyone can do something for 5 minutes 3 times, right? Anyone can do something for 5 minutes 2 times.
That's
anyone
actually
can do something
a great
for 5 minutes 1 time, and it's just enough to kind of get you through. And I think the parallel to business in a way, and this I'm going to tie it all back. You guys are going to be blown away by this. I'm going to tie it all back.
I'm getting the sound effects.
The parallel there is when it comes to losing weight or getting fit. We know that if you go run, you're going to lose weight. So then it's just a matter of pushing yourself to run further, faster, longer, stronger. If you go
believe
spin,
that the results will happen.
Yeah, you're going to, like, it's proven. Like, if you go do these exercises, you're going to lose weight. Where it comes down to the goals and reverse engineering them, and then you get into the mindset is if you can figure out what activities you have to do that are guaranteed to produce results, then it's just a mindset of how disciplined are you in order to do them every single day, all day long.
How much fight? How much fight do you have in you? Did I share about the quote of the Zillow president?
I was waiting for my golden nugget. Ding. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I love that money sound. Did I share with you about the president of Zillow resigning and what he wrote? No. Forgive me if I've shared this on the podcast, but it was so impactful to me. The president of Zillow. I actually sent it to Steve. I sent this quote to Steve. And he took it actually the wrong way. He thought I was telling him it was time for him to resign. It was hilarious. And I said, oh man, don't be a little baby. And I was like, that's not what I was saying at all. It wasn't crossing my mind that way, but here's what it was. He basically was saying, I'm paraphrasing, but read this. He was stepping down and saying like Zillow was one of the most instrumental things in his life. It's been an amazing, he grew the sales to over $1 billion. I mean, it's incredible, this guy. And he's stepping down, he's taking 6 months off. He doesn't know what his next venture is gonna be. But he said, startups are such an intense experience and require so much effort and energy and fight. He goes, it requires a new team every 10 years. And what I took that quote to mean, and this is what I believe he's really saying.
Left.
Yeah, this is what
I just heard.
Dude, this is what I believe he was saying. I think it's so powerful. He wasn't saying that he can't take Zillow to the next level. That's not what he was saying. It wasn't about his talent. It was his fight. He didn't have the energy. Think of you day one on the job. How much energy are you putting on? You're like on your toes. Hey, what do you need me to do? Day one, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is like, I'm on my toes. Like, but then what
so
happens?
true.
You get comfortable.
Get
comfortable,
complacent.
and your fight goes down.
Yep.
And when your fight goes down, it's not that you can't do it. It's that he goes, it takes a fresh team to have the fight, because how much have we been through? We've been through so much.
Yes.
And so when you hit another hill, you just go.
Went through 2008.
You go, well, it is what it is. I mean, I guess that will hopefully handle itself. Instead of if it was day one on the job, you'd be attacking that problem. I think of all the problems, like, oh yeah, day one, you'd be attacking that with fight, with energy, with passion. And so the real winners are the ones who have the fight. And you think about Steve, like he has relentless fight. Yeah. And you think about Elon Musk, relentless fight. I guarantee you interview LeBron James, Tom Brady, relentless in their fight. Like they just don't let go. They're a bulldog. They don't give up. Kobe Bryant misses the shot in the finals. If you guys haven't watched Kobe Bryant's Muse, he misses the shot in the finals and he comes back. And what does he do that night? He calls, I think it was his middle school gym or his high school gym person, and gets them to open up the high school gym. And he shoots that shot all night. He shoots that same shot he missed all night long. And you ask yourself, when you pick up that 50-pound phone and you're calling those
Missed that
FISBOs,
shot.
how much fight do you have? That's what it is. And it really boils down to that. If you want to hit your goals, if you want to be in the 8%, how much fight do you have?
Dude,
but that was
that
an
is-
incredible quote, dude. And
That
when
was
I
good.
think about the person who starts their job fresh,
Yeah, everyone knows that feeling. Everyone has seen that person.
everybody's
Everyone has
seen
been-
that person, has been that person,
Yep.
and the level, the intensity that you have is a lot different than when you're there for 3 years.
That's so true. That is our theme here for 2020. We're announcing it now. Relentless.
Relentless.
Be relentless. I don't know if that's what
I
I'm
love
starting
that
on,
actually,
but
though.
I
Be
love that.
relentless.
I love that.
With a fearless attitude.
Fearless was our 2019 theme.
Fearless is our core values for anybody
gotta
listening
come up
who
with a
didn't
new
get that
acronym.
joke.
Well, you see on our, if you go check
Yeah,
out
we
our
should have
YouTube
another. Yeah, let's
page-
get another sign. Be relentless.
Yeah. Fearless is our core values. It stands for fun, extreme ownership, action, relationships, leadership, entrepreneurial spirit, service, and sales. So now I got to come up with relentless. Let's see. Relentless, we still have the R for relationships.
What
We
was
still have
actually
the E.
really cool about
We have the
Fearless
L.
is,
It's
so
two
everybody
E's.
knows, as we put together our core values, like we as a team thought about it,
It ends in
talked
the
to
same 4
people,
letters.
and we didn't come up with the acronym Fearless, but we came up with these themes.
Yeah.
Like as we talked to each other and we were putting them down on paper, we actually came up with these themes that happened to, as Josh, our
was driving
wordsmith
home
and
one
marketing,
night.
just happened to go, wow, all of this really can be summarized in these words that make up Fearless.
And then I brought it back the next day. I'm like, guys, this is genius.
Yes.
And Luke goes, isn't that the name of a Taylor Swift album?
Yeah, I did say that. It is the name of the Taylor Swift album. But you had Row at one point too, didn't you? You had Row as an acronym. I was like, nah, dude, that's not near.
Everyone row in the same direction. Like, that was the idea. Everyone.
See, guys, even when we put together our core values, there was a lot of work.
There's
that went
no
into that.
bad ideas in brainstorming, only in decisions.
Yeah, only in decisions. Then you reap the consequences.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this podcast heading into the new year. Hope it gave you some inspiration to
Not
get-
hope. It did.
It did. Dude, you're right. LeBron James would not be sitting around hoping.
He would not be hoping to win
that
the
his shot went
championship,
in.
Josh.
Yeah.
He'd
He'd
be-
be winning championships.
I'm going to give myself a money sign for that.
Make sure you check out this video for this podcast over at staypaidpodcast.com. You can also find our lead tracker worksheet. I'm telling you, this worksheet is really, really good. It's designed for real estate because it has a lot of like real estate specific stuff in there in terms of leads to a listing appointment, right? Listing appointment to listing sold, and then commission. But you can use this for anything. You can put your own commission, you can put your own average sales price in there, and then it actually has tabs within the workbook that include Facebook. So we included some of our own numbers from Facebook. We ran a bunch of Facebook ads. We showed how many impressions you have to get in order to get that much clicks, how many clicks you have to get that many leads on your website, how many leads you have to get that many appointments. And you can do that for postcards. You can do that for our own magazine. We know that if you send the magazine out to 50 people, you're going to get 19 referrals over the next year. Statistically, that's what the numbers say. Then all you have to figure out is, well, what do my referrals convert at? If your referrals convert at 50%, then you're looking at 8 to 9 transactions from that specific piece of marketing. Then you just roll through all your other marketing pieces. So check that out as well over at staypaidpodcast.com in the show notes. And if you're interested in supporting the show, you can help us out by rating us on iTunes 5 stars. We are number,
Clear your throat.
as of this recording, we are number 37
Yeah, I didn't believe it. I freaked out.
in
37.
Apple iPod iTunes.
Apple iPod.
This is what happens when
Apple
I don't write an
iTunes. Yeah.
outro. This is why I write everything down.
No, we are the #1 podcast in the 37th spot
In the
right now.
37th
I'm just
spot
calling it for 2020.
on
yeah.
Apple Podcast. So rate us 5 stars, leave a comment. That's going to help us rise up the charts. The other way is to tell a friend about the show and share on social media. Our goal for Stay Paid in 2020,
Just to be #1.
1.
And we need you.
Numero
Even you can make a difference.
And you can make a difference, and you can make a difference.
If you did not see the YouTube video and you're watching this, if you're watching this on audio, if you're listening to this on audio, I pointed at the camera right there.
Thank you so much for listening. For this episode of Stay Paid, I am Joshua Stike.
Guys, and I'm Luke Acree, and the action item obviously is easy of you got to put down your goals on paper. So I'm not even going to give you that as an action item. That is just you have to do it. If you don't, you're nuts. I believe you need to address the standards that you have for yourself and that you have for your team. And I think if you don't have standards, obviously you need to put those down. Most people have standards, they just don't recognize that they have standards.
Effect?
You need to raise your standards. You have to raise your standards, guys. It is literally your standards that will dictate. You will never exceed the standards that you've put on yourself. Raise your standards. And Grant Cardone's written a whole book called 10X, the 10X rule. Go read that book. But it's about raising your standards and performing at a higher level. The difference between a top producer and a mediocre producer in every industry is they take action. So take action on that today.